Hey, sickos, and welcome to another podcast. Now, today we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane to the dark side of life. Now, we're going to be talking about Lucifer Valentine's Black Metal Veins, which was released in 2012. Now, grab a coffee, grab a snack, because this podcast is going to be quite a while. And I'm going to try not to give too much about this movie away, but I want to give just enough away so you get a general idea of what you're in for if you haven't seen Black Metal Veins from Lucifer Valentine. Now, for those that don't know Lucifer Valentine, that may not know who he is, which I highly doubt it. If you are into effed up movies, you are more than likely going to know his name or his movies. But for those that don't, however, the genius what he is, and I'm going to explain later why I feel like he's a genius. He is a director, writer, editor, and according to his IMDb page, a producer, actor, and cinematographer. Now, Lucifer Valentine is known very vastly as the director of the Vomit Gore trilogy, which consists of the most controversial movies in the underground cinema, and at the top of the extreme cinema lists. And they are Slaughtered Vomit Dolls, Regurgitated Sacrifice, and Slow Torture Puke Chamber. Now these all span from 2006 to 2008 and 2010. Now Mr. Valentine has also directed A Perfect Child of Satan from 2012, Black Metal Veins from 2012, and Black Mass of the Nazi Sex Wizard from 2015 and the Angela chapters from 2020. Now, one thing I do want to give a heads up on is when you search Lucifer Valentine, there is a Reddit post talking about what I mentioned on my last Valentine podcast, which was called I Support Lucifer Valentine. Now, please don't acknowledge this Reddit post. Completely ignore it. So like I spoke about the last time, there is no concrete evidence and nobody has anything backed up or any proof. And because of this, it's not fair on Mr. Valentine. Those kinds of accusations can ruin someone's career. So whenever you search up his name on Google, please do not, I can't say this enough, please do not look into that Reddit post. Like I said, there's no concrete evidence, so please ignore it. Now, if you want to know what I'm talking about, by all means, you can check out my podcast that I mentioned before, and you will get a general idea what I'm talking about. But today, we are going to be talking about Black Metal Veins from 2012. Now, in the beginning of this film, we are introduced with a disclaimer, and in this disclaimer, Mr. Valentine explains that this film is to document the use of drugs, specifically crack, cocaine, and heroin. He states this film is meant to clearly illustrate the physical, psychological, emotional, and spiritual destruction caused by drug addiction. Also in this disclaimer, Mr. Valentine states that in no way is the following film meant to encourage the illegal use of drugs of any kind. Apologies about that. I am reading from a script because I like to write down exactly what I'm going to be talking about so I don't forget anything. So please excuse that little blip. I will vouch for this disclaimer through and through, and the reason being is as this movie doesn't shy away from showing how drugs are taken, what the effects are, the downfall of these drugs, and how it affects not just the individual or the individuals, but the families of the people that's doing these drugs, for example. I will also vouch that even though it's self-explanatory, drugs can ruin you financially, it can destroy friendships and your livelihood. So please don't do drugs, people. Even if your friends are doing it and ask you, please be the better person and decline any offers. This is not in any way stating that if anyone does drugs that they're a bad person, because that's not the case. There is a lot of people out there that do drugs and you won't have any idea and they can be fine. Now here is a little poem that I found online a while ago that perfectly sums up drug abuse to its core. I destroy homes, tear families apart, take your children, and that's just the start. I'm more costly than diamonds, more costly than gold. The sorrow I bring is a sight to behold. And if you need me, remember I'm easily found. I live all around you, in schools and in town. I live with the rich, I live with the poor, I live down the street and maybe next door. My power is awesome, try me you'll see, but if you do, you may never break free. Just try me once and I might let you go, but try me twice and I'll own your soul. When I possess you, you'll steal and you'll lie, you'll do what you have to just get high. The crimes you'll commit for my narcotic charms will be worth the pleasure you'll feel in your arms. You will lie to your mother, you will steal from your dad. When you see their tears, you should feel sad. But you will forget your morals and how you were raised. I'll be your conscience, I'll teach you my ways. I take kids from parents and parents from kids. I turn people from God and separate from friends. I'll take everything from you, your looks and your pride. I'll be with you always, right by your side. You'll give up everything, your family, your home, your friends, your money, then you'll be alone. I'll take and I'll take till you have nothing more to give. When I'm finished with you, you'll be lucky to live. If you try me, be warned, this is no game. If given the chance, I'll drive you insane. I'll ravish your body, I'll control your mind. I'll own you completely, your soul will be mine. The nightmares I'll give you while you're lying in bed, the voices you'll hear from inside your head. The sweats, the shakes, the visions you'll see, I want you to know these are all gifts from me. But then it's too late and you'll know in your heart that you are mine and we shall not be apart. You'll regret that you tried me, they always do, but you come to me, not I to you. You knew this would happen, many times you were told, but you challenged my power and chose to be bold. You could have said no and just walked away. If you could live that day over, now what would you say? I'll be your master, you will be my slave. I'll even go with you when you go to your grave. Now that you have met me, what will you do? Will you try me or not? It's all up to you. I can bring you more misery than words can tell. Come take my hand, let me lead you to hell. Signed, Drugs. Now, if you or someone you know are suffering with the abuse of alcohol or drugs, please seek help. I will be featuring certain organisations that are there to help you, and you can remain anonymous on my Instagram and my website when it's finished. But for this podcast, you have the Alcoholics Anonymous, Alcohol Change UK, Frank, that gives you advice on drugs, all based in the United Kingdom. You can also seek advice on the NHS website. Now, just remember, if you want to become clean, it has to be you that wants it. Only you can make that decision. But now, moving on to the film. So we are introduced to Autumn Misery, which is our lead actress in this film, along with her friends that hang around together to do drugs on the daily basis. One friend called Doom takes an injection and goes on to explain how he feels after getting high. Then a bit later we see Autumn getting high also from an injection. One thing we do notice right away is how these certain drugs are taken, how they're prepared, and the effect from these certain drugs. So if you don't catch on before, you will now. If you're a previous drug user, this might, just might, be a trigger for you. So please keep in mind and take what I said as a warning. So please be warned that this film, is intense with the drug use in this, and that's no exaggeration. So please be warned. Now we are introduced to Brad Allen, who's in a metal band, and he plays the guitar or the bass, one of the two. And he goes into his story and his journey. Then another friend who goes into a deep story about his life, his journey, and the meaning of life and his outlook now. Now, Autumn states that she has had a great childhood and that she still turned out as fucked up as she is today. That is your fault for choosing the path, nobody else's. And a bit later on states that a majority of the time it's the individual's fault because of the path they've chosen. But there is, say, a handful of people that do end up messed up because of the way they started out in life. So, example, they had a fucked up childhood, which is the case, might I add, but other times it's not, and so she's right in a way. Now, one thought I did, however, or one thing I did have in my mind when watching Autumn speak is, yes, they may have had the best childhood, and yes, they may have went on the journey of drug addiction. However, their current journey sounds very depressing, and I can't help but, feel sorry for these people. They clearly live in a troubled area by the looks of it, but it doesn't look like they can see any way out. And of course, there is that massive chance of them not wanting that way out. But I truly believe, due to the length of time they've been taking these drugs, it's the drugs that's altered their perception and reality of how good life actually can be. But that's just my opinion. Now, Autumn goes on to talk about her family and her kids. One moment she has a fantastic childhood, and then the next something happens to her. The same as her friend before, as we spoke about. He has had a goodish childhood, yet he saw something that would traumatise a child. That seems contradictory to me. Either you had a great childhood or you didn't. And then with Autumn's children, she talks about them, but it doesn't seem like she actually could give a fuck, if you ask me. So one thing I gathered watching these people is they don't give a crap about anyone else but themselves. Apologies on that. Wind chime. Apologies on that. This is the unedited version of my podcast. Apologies. And one friend who we saw in this film, who I felt a little bit sorry for when he was talking about his child and whatnot. But then I realised the only reason his mother won't let him see his kid is because he's an addict, and unfortunately he gets killed in a drug deal gone wrong. Now, if anyone knows this guy that listens to this podcast, my thoughts are with you. I'm very sorry to hear that information on this film. But then we meet Autumn's boyfriend, who in my opinion seems to be really, really nice. Too nice, if you ask me. He talks about how he loves Autumn and that how he's helped her and all this stuff. And he lets her get away with anything. And to me, that's Autumn taking massive advantage of him. And that's absolutely terrible. So forgive me for saying this, but he deserves someone better. You know, he seems like this nice guy that deserves so much better when he comes back from his job, which I don't want to say too much what he does, but, and it's nothing drug related or anything like that. He works away, but when he comes home to that. And if that was me, I wouldn't want that. I might love this person with all my heart, but if they're not willing to quit, you know, and make their life a misery, then I would probably end up walking away. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, but moving on, we see more of our friends, and we even get small interviews from the parents and of the individuals and how it makes them feel and how it's affecting them and everything like that. So that's a nice little piece there. A nice piece of reality of what this is doing to not only the individuals but their family members, you know, and how it's really truly affecting them to the point where they're crying, you know, because they don't want to see their children die from a drug overdose or anything, you know. So that's a little bit of a reality check right there. If nothing yet has been a reality check, this probably will hit home a little bit, of especially if you know someone that's doing drugs or that's on drugs, and you know you've done everything you can to help these people. Maybe this will be a little bit of an insight for you of not only how it's affecting the person that's doing these drugs, but also how it's affecting other people, you know, and what it's doing to these people. But anyway, and then the rest of the movie is basically the same thereafter, apart from a fair bit of screen time from Raven, who appears to be the lead singer from the band that one of her friends we mentioned earlier was a part of. Now, moving on from this movie, I don't want to go too much into detail now apart from that, because there is a lot that goes on in this film, but it's basically overall the same as what I've just discussed. It goes back to our friends, back to, like autumn and stuff like that. So, but out of all of that, I did see a Reddit post on through Google, actually, when I was searching up Black Metal Veins to get a little bit more information on this film that maybe I didn't know about. And I noticed that there was a Reddit post questioning whether the movie was real and if the death scenes were real also. I mean, I can probably vouch that the movie is real, i.e. the drug taking scenes were real. However, I would love to know from the director, Lucifer Valentine himself, whether or not the death scenes were real. So, Lucifer, if you do end up listening to this podcast, because I know that Lucifer listened to my other podcast, which was the I Support Lucifer Valentine, he did listen to that one. If you do listen to this one, Lucifer, then please let me know if these drug scenes were real. The death scenes. If you don't want to announce this on social media, pop me a message. My inbox is always open. But if they were real, then we'd probably be potentially looking at a snuff genre. But now, moving on to would I rate this movie? Well, if you're someone that may be interested in taking drugs because your friends are doing it or whoever you might know that's doing it, and you want a raw, transparent reality check, then yeah, I would advise you to watch this film. If you're someone that knows someone who does drugs or deals and want to see the true reality of the situation, then also I would say yes. But be warned, this is a shocking, sad and depressing look into the lives of people that are down on their luck, that have no way out. Now, if you're someone that's easily offended by drugs, and I'm going to say forced miscarriage, then absolutely not. But if you're someone like me, however, that simply loves fucked up films and want to support Lucifer Valentine, no matter the cost, then by all means, watch the movie. Sicko. Okay, now, before we finish up here, I just want to add that I may not be entirely fond myself of the Vomit Gore trilogy in any way. However, I do appreciate the craftsmanship that Lucifer Valentine brings to the table. I appreciate the dedication that he puts forward in his movies. No matter what anyone says, these movies stand out above the rest in being uniquely different, individual and extreme in their own right. Now, I just wanted to add something else here as well. Maybe that's why the name Lucifer Valentine stands out above the rest as well. Because if you don't know his name, you'll know his movies. And if you don't know his movies, you'll know his name, So he must be doing something right, in my eyes. But now to the end of my episode, I wanted to thank Mr. Valentine for bringing Black Metal Veins to our screens. I appreciate you. I want to thank Daniel Valiant for standing by me throughout the last few years. It doesn't go unnoticed. I do want to thank each and every one of the directors and actors out there for supporting this podcast and my Instagram, and not forgetting the listeners out there. Thank you so much to yous. If it wasn't for yous, I wouldn't be doing these podcasts and I wouldn't be compelled to watch more effed up movies to do these podcasts for you. But I am setting up a website dedicated to this podcast, and it will be available to look on by tomorrow. Hopefully by later on tonight, actually. And I'm also going to be doing a Patreon. So if you would love to support this podcast and you want to see more video type reviews, then that's where I'm going to be doing those on Patreon. And I'm only going to make it for very affordable price of just £5 a month. So I don't know what that'll be in American dollars, but in the UK, British pounds, it will be £5 a month. So if you are looking forward to that, then please tag me on Instagram. But all updates will be announced on my Instagram, like I just said there. And my Instagram handle is SensoryStowers46. You can't not find me. If you type in Sensory Stowers, you'll know which one it is. You see a picture of me with my black t-shirt on, so with my hand to my forehead. So that's just a little glimpse of what the picture is. But don't forget to follow me over there. But until next time, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much again to Lucifer Valentine for bringing Black Metal Veins to our screens. And I really appreciate this movie. Not just because of obvious reasons, but I really appreciate this movie because I've never seen a movie that's been done like this before. All of the other movies that's based on drugs and alcohol addiction on the mainstream are all very much censored and everything like that, but Black Metal Veins goes, it doesn't shy away from showing you the true reality of what exactly drugs does to you. So I really appreciate this movie, and again, like I said before, I would recommend this movie to anybody that might be curious about drugs, that might be curious about taking them, or even just educating them on the drugs part of it, And obviously there's loads of websites out there that go into detail about drugs and what they do, what the drugs are and everything like this and how they affect you and whatnot. And don't forget, there is also drugs out there that are more easily addictive than other ones. So again, by no means, like what Lucifer Valentine says in his movie, this podcast is no way, shape or form any way of telling anyone to do drugs. I don't do drugs myself. I never will. I've got no interest in drugs. I don't mind drinking a little bit, but even then I'm not that much of a heavy drinker. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please let me know your thoughts on this movie, on the director himself, over on my Instagram, SensoryStowers46, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.